On the 2nd of October 1976, a friendly soccer match was arranged between Fulchester United and Strathclyde Rovers, one of Scotland's most prominent teams. 10 minutes into the second half, rioting broke out on the terraces and the match was abandoned. By the time the disturbance was under control, 83 fans had been arrested, 31 policemen had been seriously injured, and Sergeant Patrick Doyle, 29 years old, married with 4 small children, was dead. John McTeague and Daniel Morrison, both from Scotland, are charged with his murder. The defence is being conducted by Mr. Douglas McGilly, QC, and appearing for the prosecution is Mr. Richard Kelly, QC. Dr. Dixon, a Home Office pathologist, has just been called to give formal medical evidence.
Was the body clothed when you began the examination?
Yes. It is normal in a case like this where forensic and medical evidence are closely related.
And on closer examination, what did you discover?
The outer garment, a wind cheater, had been punctured in several places by a sharp blade, probably a knife, and there was a section of broken bottle protruding from the abdomen just below the sternum.
What action did you take?
Fibers were removed from the gashes and the wind cheater, labelled and sent to forensic for comparative analysis, as was the broken bottle. The body was then stripped in order that a complete medical examination might be carried out.
And as a result of that complete medical examination, what did you find?
A total of 7 stab wounds in the chest and abdomen. The liver and spleen were severely ruptured as a result of blows received, probably from kicking. There was an 8-inch gash in the scalp, in which I found slivers of glass, and there was a deep wound in the solar plexus, deep enough to reach the heart, where I also found a sliver of glass embedded in the right ventricle.
Would you look at Exhibit 1, please? Now, Doctor, what can you tell us about it?
That is the weapon that caused the injury to the heart.
Now, how can you be so sure?
Well, quite apart from the shape of the injury and the depth, the sliver of glass that I took from the heart fitted exactly onto the broken surface of the tip of the weapon.
We have also this sliver, my lord, if my learned friend wishes to see it.
We do not contest this evidence, my lord.
Thank you. Now, Dr. Dixon, what, in your opinion, was the actual cause of death?
In medical terms, massive hemorrhage due to injuries received. But I think a truer statement would be that this man was savaged to death. In 11 years as a Home Office pathologist, I have carried out many examinations on victims of assault. But this was without doubt the most appalling, indeed the most sickening, example of man's violence to man that I have ever come across.
Thank you, Dr. Dixon.
11 years as a Home Office pathologist, Dr. Dixon?
Yes.
Don't you think that was rather an emotional outburst for a man of science?
I have feelings. I'm also a human being.
You're not here in your capacity of human being, but as a scientist, Dr. Dixon. And I would be grateful if you would answer my questions accordingly.
Of course.
Thank you, Dr. Dixon. Now, cause of death, in medical terms, if you please.
As I have already stated, massive hemorrhage due to injuries received.
Could you be more specific?
I'm not sure what you mean.
Oh, come now, Dr. Dixon, I'm sure we're not going to run into language difficulties. The question is simple. Which of the injuries was responsible for the death of Sergeant Doyle?
Take your pick. 3 of the knife wounds had severed vital organs. The liver was virtually kicked in 2. The heart had been penetrated by a shard of glass. Any one of these injuries could have been responsible.
I didn't ask you what could, I asked you what was.
Well, that's impossible to say.
For a Home Office pathologist of 11 years' experience, perhaps if you'd given the body a more thorough examination.
I resent the implication. I examined every relevant factor in the minutest detail.
And yet you cannot tell us which of the wounds was the actual cause of death?
No. You see, in a case like this, where so many potentially fatal wounds have been inflicted in a short time, it is difficult to...
We're making progress, aren't we?
I beg your pardon?
Well, a few short moments ago, you told us it was impossible. Now it is only difficult. At this rate, it won't be very long before it becomes simple.
My lad, if I might point out, the cause of death, as already stated, was quite sufficient to satisfy the coroner.
It may not satisfy this jury, my lord.
Would you explain why not, Mr. McGilly?
Well, in my opinion, the cause of death, as stated, is far too general. In the interest of my clients, I should like to see if we cannot be more precise.
Yes, the witness has already made it clear he's unwilling to commit himself further in medical terms.
Then, with your lordship's permission, I should like to approach the matter as an exercise in logic.
Oh. Take as much time as you like.
Thank you, my lord. Now, Dr. Dixon, I want you to consider the 3 stab wounds which severed vital organs. Could any one of those wounds have caused death instantaneously?
Well, they're not of themselves, but...
Indeed. Had these been the only wounds, and had medical help been more immediately available, would these wounds have proved fatal?
Well, one kidney was punctured, the trachea was...
But would they have proved fatal?
Perhaps not of themselves.
And the damage to the liver and spleen instantly fatal?
I doubt if they could have been repaired even with immediate medical attention. I would say definitely fatal.
The question was instantly fatal.
Not instantly, but it would only have been a matter of time.
Where there's life, there's hope, Dr. Dixon. And the heart wound, could that have been instantly fatal?
Oh, definitely. The wall of the heart was completely penetrated.
So we have 3 categories of wound, 2 of which were not instantly fatal and a 3rd one which was. Now, Dr. Dixon, can you be more precise as to the actual cause of death?
Well,
Dr. Dixon, would it now not be more accurate to say that Sergeant Doyle died when the wall of his heart was penetrated by Exhibit 1?
it might...
My lord, I fail to see the relevance of this line of questioning. What difference does it make which of these wounds killed Sergeant Doyle?
It makes the difference between murder and manslaughter, my lord.
Would you explain that, Mr. McGinley?
Well, Lord, my clients do not deny being in a fight with Sergeant Doyle. A fight which involved a knife, and how that knife was involved we shall explain at the appropriate time.
Yeah.
A fight in which a violent beating was meted out to my clients as well as to Sergeant Doyle. And we shall explain the events leading up to that fight again at the appropriate time. But what my clients do deny, and that most emphatically, is that they at any time attacked Sergeant Doyle with a broken bottle. They will state that Sergeant Doyle fell upon the broken bottle during the struggle. The bottle was lying on the ground. Thus, he sustained the fatal wound. That is the difference it makes, my lord. Thank you, Dr. Dixon.
You wish to re-examine, Mr. Kelly?
No, thank you, my lord.
Oh, are you sure? I thought there were 1 or 2 points raised by Mr. McGilly which you might like to clarify.
My lord, the evidence will show that it will make no difference at all to the ultimate outcome of this trial.
Well, thank you, Doctor. Oh, yes, you may be released unless counsel have any objection. No. You may go.
I call Police Constable Bridges.
Police Constable Bridges.
I swear by Almighty God that
Morrison. That sort of behaviour won't help your case at all.
Well, neither will that papish pig.
And another remark like that, and I shall have you removed to the cells. Now, sit down. Yeah.
Ah, well.
I swear by Almighty God the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. 117 Police Constable Bridges, Fulchester Central, my lord.
Constable Bridges, on the 2nd of October last, were you on crowd control duty at the Fulchester United football ground?
Yes, sir.
And what did your part in that duty consist of?
We were trying out a new technique. And apart from the 400 uniformed policemen on view and 200 in reserve, there was also a special force operating under the code name of Filingdale.
Filingdale? Well, that's the name of the early warning radar station in Yorkshire.
Yes, my lord, that's what we were, an early warning system.
Oh, yeah.
80 men in plain clothes operating in pairs around the ground. We were to suss out the hot spots and try and cool them down before they got out of hand. I was working with Paddy, Sergeant Doyle. We were one of the teams assigned to the jungle.
Jungle?
The East Terracing at the Fulchester United ground, my lord, where the visiting supporters tend to congregate. I understand it is known colloquially as the jungle. Constable Bridges.
Oh, really? And is there a name for the West Terracing, which presumably houses the home fans?
Yes, my lord. I believe it is known as Paradise.
Let's get on.
My lord. So you and Sergeant Doyle were patrolling the East Terracing, the jungle. What procedure did you follow?
We were patrolling Section E, in constant radio contact with each other and with a control van. The drill was to move unobtrusively among the crowds and look out for potential troublemakers.
Unobtrusively, with walkie-talkies in operation the whole time?
We had specially designed sets with a throat mic that could be concealed by a collar or a scarf, and an earpiece that fitted inside the ear. It had the added advantage of leaving both hands free for emergencies.
Quite. And did any such emergencies arise?
Yes, we made 2 arrests before half-time and stopped till maybe half a dozen fights before they could really get going.
So, in your opinion, up to that point at least, Operation Fylingdale had been a complete success?
Definitely, sir. Any one of those fights could have escalated into a major disturbance if we hadn't been on the spot.
Indeed. Which brings us to the one which did escalate. Could you describe for us, Constable, the events leading up to this incident?
It was about 8 minutes into the second half. Sergeant Doyle and I were working our way across Section E, about 20 yards apart. He was lower down the terracing.
Could you see him?
No, but we were in constant radio touch.
And then?
I got a yellow from Sergeant Doyle.
A yellow?
A yellow alert. He'd spotted something dodgy.
And what was your response?
Well, I was rather busy myself at the time. I had a 15-year-old Strathclyde supporter drunk out of his mind, being sick all over my shoes. I acknowledged Sergeant Doyle's yellow and said I'd join him as soon as possible.
Did Sergeant Doyle comment on the delay?
He didn't sound too worried. He said, "Don't be too long, I've got a right pair here. A gorilla and a ferret. They're spoiling for it."
I see.
My lord, really, surely this is hearsay evidence?
Oh, I don't think I follow you, Mr. McGilly. Sergeant Doyle, in the course of his duty, was merely reporting the situation as he saw it.
Exactly, my lord, as he saw it. And now Constable Bridges is reporting that report as he heard it.
Constable Bridges' report on the text of his conversation with Sergeant Doyle may be corroborated from a completely impartial source. And in any event, my lad, is part of res geste.
Oh, res geste. Oh, dear. Well, now, members of the jury. Res geste is evidence of incidents which in themselves form part and parcel of the whole incident from which these charges arise. It's therefore admissible in evidence. Yes?
I'm obliged to your lordship. As Constable Bridges stated earlier, he was linked by radio not only to Sergeant Doyle, but also to Control Centre. The entire conversation was, in fact, recorded.
I see.
My lord, as this was a major exercise in crowd control, it was only natural that the authorities would want a complete record for later study and analysis. We do have the tape here, my lord, if my learned friend would prefer it to the spoken word of the witness.
I object most strongly, my lord. Whatever the presentation of this evidence, it will still only tell us what the sergeant thought he saw. And to paraphrase a long-standing legal axiom, my lord, what the sergeant thought he saw is not evidence.
That's not an axiom, Mr. McGilly. That's an aphorism.
Well, thank you, my lord.
Your objection is overruled. However, I will give you the choice of hearing the verbal evidence of the witness or the recording.
Under protest, I accept the witness.
Thank you. Now, can we get on?
My lord.
On the condition that I am provided with a transcript of the relevant recording as a reference.
Yes, well, that doesn't seem to be an unreasonable request, Mr. Kelly. No doubt you have a transcript ready for the defense.
Well, I presume, my lord, one had been supplied to them. However, one might easily be...
Oh, dear. Then I suppose we'd better adjourn. Until, 2:15? Make sure that solicitors have a copy of the transcript for the defense.
Very good, my lord.
All stand.
Now, Constable Bridges, you had got word from Sergeant Doyle that he had a couple of troublemakers in sight.
Objection in his opinion.
All right, in his considered professional opinion as an experienced upholder of the law. Trouble was imminent. Please proceed, Constable.
The youth beside me had passed out. I got him out of the section where he might have been trampled on and took him up to the top of the terracing. There I handed him over to a uniformed policeman, and as I was doing so, Sergeant Doyle came through again.
Had the situation deteriorated?
It sounded like it. He said, "Come on, Dave, this is it." So I started down the passageway to go to his assistance.
Did you hear anything else from Sergeant Doyle?
Yes, he said, "Watch it, you," and then, "I'm not telling you again," and just after that, "Right, come here, you." And then his mic went dead.
How far were you from him then?
Oh, only about 5 yards. I could see his head over the top of the crowds.
And could you see anything else?
Yes, I saw him, Morrison. He was holding Sergeant Doyle by the throat and butting him in the face with his head. I then saw a whiskey bottle smash down the back of the sergeant's head.
And did you see who wielded that bottle?
And no, whoever it was too small to be seen over the heads of the crowd. I did see a blue and yellow sleeve, which corresponded to the wind sheet of the other accused McTeague was wearing when we arrested him a few minutes later.
And what did you do then?
I called the double red, the code for immediate action requested. I gave our position and then tried to get through to Sergeant Doyle. But United had just scored the second goal and the jungle had gone up like Vesuvius. When I did manage to get through, Sergeant Doyle was lying on the ground, and those two were standing above him, putting the boot in.
Morrison and McTeague.
Yes, my lord. McTeague was holding a knife.
Exhibit 2, please. Constable, is that the knife?
Yes, sir, that's it.
Please go on.
I drew my truncheon and hit McTeague on the wrist to make him drop the knife. I then concentrated on Morrison, who was laughing like crazy and still kicking at the body on the ground. I tried to haul him off, but he wouldn't stop. I did finally manage to subdue him.
By knocking him unconscious with your truncheon?
There was no other way. Shortly after that, reinforcements arrived, and they were taken into custody.
And then?
I went to see if there was anything I could do for Sergeant Doyle. He was lying in a pool of blood. I turned him over, but he was dead.
Thank you, Constable Bridges.
680. Didn't that seem a bit excessive to you?
I beg your pardon?
400 uniformed men on the ground, 200 in reserve, 80 plainclothes men patrolling the terraces. How many men are usually on duty for a Fulchester United home game?
I'm sorry, sir, I don't know.
I'll tell you, 120. So I ask you again, didn't 680 seem a bit excessive?
Not the way things turned out, no.
But before the match, at your muster, 680 men? What were you expecting, World War III?
And we almost got it, didn't we? 120 men would have been worse than useless against that mob.
You were expecting trouble?
Well, with these people, they're famous for it. Ask the ordinary decent citizens of Newcastle or Barcelona.
Or Fulchester?
Right.
Right. So with this Tartar horde about to descend upon your fair city, were you given any special instructions at your briefing?
There were no special instructions.
None? In a major crowd control exercise involving new techniques, not even for Operation Filing Dale, the plainclothes early warning system?
We were to keep a low profile, try and spot potential troublemakers and get them out of the way before anything could develop.
Using the minimum force necessary?
Yes, of course.
Of course. Now, how did you and Sergeant Doyle get paired up for this duty? Was it by roster, by luck, by lot?
It was a natural pairing. We'd worked together often before.
Oh, yes, you had a lot in common, hadn't you? You were both members of the Catholic Police Association?
Yes, sir.
You were best man at his wedding?
Yes, sir.
And you both had a loathing for the kind of mindless violence that you believed these kind of people were capable of?
Oh, we knew what they were capable of. We'd read the reports from Newcastle. And it didn't take them long to prove it.
Well, now, let's see how long it took them to prove it. Do you know how many arrests were made inside the ground during the first half of the game?
I don't have the exact figures.
I have. 3. And 2 of those arrests were made by you and Sergeant Doyle.
I don't see what you're getting at.
Oh, don't you? How then do you explain that you and Sergeant Doyle arrested twice as many wrongdoers as the rest of the police force put together?
We carried out our duty conscientiously.
And they didn't?
No. I mean, we were in the roughest part of the ground.
The roughest part of the ground. 2 arrests before half-time. You could have notched up that many in a reserve game before the kick-off.
We were also there to maintain order.
Doesn't seem to have been too difficult, does it? At least not in the first half. Not at all what you had been led to expect by the experience of Newcastle and Barcelona. Perhaps that puzzled you, even frustrated you, eh?
No, it suited us perfectly. If we could have got through the whole game without a single major disturbance, it would have been a victory for the Fulchester Police.
And a victory for the Strathclyde Rover supporters. It would have gone some way towards proving that they are not animals and not the wild beasts that they are made out to be by the media.
But it didn't, did it?
And perhaps by the end of these proceedings we shall have a clearer idea of why it didn't.
I know why.
Oh, I know you do. Constable Bridges, I know you do. Now let's come to the second half. You and the sergeant are conscientiously patrolling Section E, ready to quash any potential disturbance with the minimum of force necessary.
Yes.
Doyle calls a standby, but you are busy.
Yes, like I told you, a 15-year-old kid drunk out of his mind. I had to take him out of the area where he might have been trampled on.
Yes, according to the incident log, that was Andrew Carnock, aged 15, as you say, taken to Fulchester General Hospital, where he had 7 stitches inserted in a face wound.
Yes, he fell against a stanchion as I was carrying him clear.
It just wasn't his day, was it? And then you hurried towards your colleague with his gorilla and ferret. Tell me, did Sergeant Doyle usually refer to members of the public in these disparaging terms?
No, of course not.
So he had already categorized in his own mind that these men were animals?
No, Pat wasn't like that. It was merely a remark.
An unfortunate remark. Then come the phrases, watch it you, I'm not telling you again, and right, come here you. Then the mic went dead. Now, do you really think that these sound like soothing words calculated to placate a potential troublemaker?
They weren't meant to placate. They were a simple warning.
Or a threat? However, you hurried towards him, the riot broke out, and finally you got there. Sergeant Doyle was lying on the ground, and the accused was standing over it.
They weren't just standing, they were kicking him.
How was Sergeant Doyle lying? On his back?
No, he was face down, curled up into a ball, trying to protect himself.
Ah, and the accused were milling around, trying to put the boot in?
No, they weren't milling. One of McTeague's feet was trapped between Sergeant Doyle's thighs, and Morrison's leg was wedged under his arm.
Oh, so they couldn't get away?
No. Even in the condition he was in, Pat had got them to rights. And he held on, despite the kicking.
Now, this alleged kicking.
Forget the alleged, read the medical report.
We do not deny the bruising. But remember, these two were each trapped by one leg, and all they were trying to do when you came was to get clear. Couldn't that be an explanation of what you saw?
No, not with these two. They were enjoying it.
They're most blind who will not see. All right, tell us what you did next.
I went to try and haul them off.
Mm-hmm. With the minimum force necessary. With the minimum force necessary. With one blow of your truncheon, you shattered McTeague's wrist.
He was holding a knife.
He will never have the full use of that hand again. And Morrison had 3 fractures in his skull.
And Sergeant Doyle is dead.
My lord, it's clear that the animosity and prejudice that this officer showed on October the 2nd has been carried into this courtroom. I have no further use for this witness.
Mr. Kelly, thank you.
My lord, may I say something?
Well, is it relevant to the case?
I think so, my lord.
All right, go ahead.
There have been several allegations of police brutality on the incident of October the 2nd. I think the true story lies in the casualty figures. There were 47 civilians injured and 124 policemen. Or judge for yourselves the source of the brutality. Thank you, my lord.
Thank you very much.
The cases in Fulchester are fictitious. You can join us again tomorrow when the Queen against McTeague and Morrison will be resumed in the Crown Court. John McTeague and Daniel Morrison are charged with the murder of Sergeant Patrick Doyle at the Fulchester United football ground. Evidence has already been given of the savagery of the attack, and the dead man's colleague, Constable Bridges, has described how when he reached his partner, the 2 accused were standing over the body, one holding a knife, both still attacking the fallen policeman. The case continues with prosecuting counsel calling the officer who made the actual arrest.
I was the officer in charge of Backup 1.
Backup 1.
The reserve force, my lord, was divided into 4 backup groups. One stationed at each of the access passages to the running track which surrounds the playing surface.
My lad, I have here a plan of the ground which might make this easier to follow.
Oh, yeah. Right. Now, wait a minute. No, face the jury, that's it. Now, Inspector Fielding, you come out of the witness box, come over here, try to put us in the picture.
Here are the 4 access passages, my lord. Reaching the running track opposite each corner flag. Now, the 4 backup groups were stationed here, 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 and here. Out of sight at the back of the 2 stands. I was here with backup 1.
I see. Here?
I'm obliged, Your Lordship. And what were your orders, Inspector?
Well, to remain out of sight until or unless required. In fact, we could only move on a double red issued from Control Center.
And what was the procedure should a double red be issued?
If I might just describe the general tactics, my lord, it'll give you a better idea how we fitted in.
Yes, go ahead.
Well, the main force of 400 was split in 2. 150 men stationed along the back of the terraces and 250 patrolling the running track at 2-yard intervals. Now, on an ordinary red alert, the men on the running track would halt, turn, and face the terracing, ready to deal with any overspill.
Did you, in fact, receive a double red alert?
Yes. Shortly after half-time, a double red, E-section, east terracing.
And what did you do?
Well, I led backup 1 out onto the track and took up the prescribed positions.
Which were?
The bulk of the men moved to fill in the spaces between the men already facing the terracing, and I stationed myself here with the V squad.
The V squad?
A squad of 15 picked men in V formation, my lord. We found it a highly effective method of clearing a path through crowds.
Please go on, Inspector.
I saw immediately where the center of the disturbance was, and I led my men towards it.
Thank you, Usher. Now, Inspector, you, in fact, were at the head of this formation, were you not?
Yes, sir.
So, in fact, you were the first of your group to reach the spot where the trouble seems to have originated.
Objection, my lord. If by trouble we're referring to the riot as a whole, we've heard nothing to prove that it started within the vicinity of my clients. Or is the charge of causing an affray about to be added to the indictment?
Yes. I'm sure you can rephrase the question.
Very easily, my lad. Inspector, were you the first of your group to reach Constable Bridges?
Yes, sir.
And what did you see?
Constable Bridges was kneeling on the ground, holding Sergeant Doyle. There was blood everywhere.
Did you see the 2 accused?
Yes. McTeague was squatting on the ground, hunched over, nursing his arm. There was a knife on the ground in front of him with a blood-stained blade.
Exhibit 2, please.
That is the knife. I picked it up myself and marked it.
And the other accused, Morrison?
Well, Morrison was sprawled out face down across Sergeant Doyle's legs, apparently unconscious.
Apparently unconscious?
Yes. When I went to move him, he got to his feet and attacked me. It took 3 of my men to subdue him.
It took 3 of your picked men to subdue him?
Yes, sir.
With the minimum force necessary?
In his case, the minimum force necessary was very considerable indeed.
Bloody English pansies, couldn't he find a way out of a paper bag?
Morrison! If this were not a very serious charge, I should have you removed from the dock. Now sit down and behave yourself, or I shall have no alternative. Yes?
Well done. And what, Inspector?
Okay, don't forget. Okay.
Inspector, what was the subsequent course of events?
Well, the 2 accused were taken to Fulchester General Hospital for treatment, where they were kept under police guard. Sergeant Doyle's body was removed to the mortuary, and I gathered together certain items and passed them on to the scene of crimes officer for forensic examination.
What were those items?
The knife, the piece of broken bottle, and later the footwear the 2 accused were wearing at the time of the incident.
My learned friend agrees the forensic evidence, my lad. And to save time, my learned friend also agrees that I might lead the inspector onto the salient points without having the report read out in full.
Mr. McGilly?
That is so, my lord.
Thank you. Now, Inspector, would you read the forensic report under summary?
Blood found on the knife the bottle and both sets of footwear was of the same blood group as Sergeant Doyle. The fingerprints of Morrison and McTeague were found on the knife. McTeague's fingerprints were found on the neck of the bottle. Shreds of material from Sergeant Doyle's clothing were found on both sets of footwear.
And now, was there anything out of the ordinary about any of the footwear?
Yes, the shoes belonging to McTeague.
Exhibit 3, please. Now, Inspector, can you tell us, what is different about them?
The toe caps are reinforced with steel.
I see. Now, after reading the forensic report and reading the post-mortem report, what action did you take?
On the morning of Wednesday, the 6th of October, the two accused were discharged from hospital. I took them to the Fulchester Central Police Station, where they were cautioned and charged with the murder of Sergeant Doyle.
Were they asked if they wished to make statements?
Yes. They both made it clear they did not wish to do so.
And how did they make this clear?
They started shouting obscenities, and then they both became violent.
Thank you, Inspector.
Inspector Fielding, have you had a lot of experience in crowd control?
It's part of my training as a police officer.
That is not what I asked. House conveyancing is part of my reading for the bar exams, but I haven't handled a title deed in 20 years. Have you had a lot of experience in crowd control?
Not a lot, but I know the drill.
Do you indeed? Let's see, your, what do you call it, your V squad. You led this V squad to the center of the disturbance, you at the head of it.
Yes, sir.
Well, now, according to the police handbook, in wedge formation, the officer in charge of the wedge shall take up his position within the arms of the V in order to direct its action with the greatest efficiency. Weren't you aware of that?
Well, yes, but there was no time. I knew there was an officer down in E section.
Oh, you knew a police officer was in trouble?
Yes, control passed on the message from Constable Bridges.
So, casting a normal procedure aside, in you went?
Yes.
Presumably, you would have waited and got it right if it had only been a civilian who was in trouble.
Mr. McGilly, that insinuation is quite unjustified.
If you say so, my lord. But as I see it, it is only one more example of overreaction on the part of the police that pervades the whole of this unfortunate incident. And since overreaction tends to beget overreaction, I think it is important that we establish the pattern.
Yes, well, overreaction is a relative term, Mr. McGilly. I would prefer it if you stick to the facts.
As your lordship pleases. Fact. On the Saturday when my clients were taken into custody, they both required extensive hospital treatment.
The reasons for that have already been made clear.
Fact. On the Wednesday, 4 hours after my clients had been discharged from Fulchester General Hospital, they were back in there again for further treatment, mainly to facial injuries.
Along with two of my men, one with a broken nose, from being butted in the face by that animal.
Animals, yes, that's what these men are to you, isn't it? You've treated them like animals from the very beginning, and then you wonder that eventually you succeed in making them behave like animals.
That is simply not true. I did everything I could to protect their rights.
Ah, so you admit they needed protection?
They had all the protection that is available to the normal citizen.
Why? According to you, these are animals?
There's not the slightest doubt in my mind that my men behaved with commendable restraint in
Oh,
the
really?
circumstances.
Wednesday, 6th of October, Fulchester General Hospital. Casualty report, McTeague. 4 broken teeth, jaw dislocated, stitches in right eyebrow. Morrison, 4 stitches in cheek wound, 3 stitches in torn ear. If your men had not shown such commendable restraint, there might not have been much of my clients left to try. Now, there is just one more fact that I would like to bring to the court's attention. You've told us that the fingerprints of Morrison and McTeague were found on that knife.
Yes, sir?
Were there any other fingerprints found on the knife?
Yes. Sergeant Doyle's.
Thank you, Inspector Fielding. That will be all.
Sergeant Doyle could easily have got hold of that knife during the struggle.
Were you there, Inspector? Did you see it?
No, but Sergeant Doyle...
Thank you, Inspector Fielding. That'll be all.
TV Lawyers.
I call the defendant, John McTeague.
Bible in your right hand, read aloud the words on this card.
I swear by Almighty God that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
You are John McTeague, and you live at 134A Plantation Street, Govan, in the city of Glasgow.
When I'm home, aye.
How old are you?
24.
What is your present occupation?
A suspected murderer.
That's enough of that.
Well, it's the longest I've ever been in one position.
What was your occupation on October the 2nd?
I didn't have one, I was on the brew.
Brew?
It's a Glasgow expression, my lord. It means the labour exchange. It's the word, a corruption, rather, of the word bureau, as in Bureau of Employment.
I see, thank you.
How long have you been unemployed?
I've never been employed.
You mean you've never had a job?
Oh, I've had jobs. Like a packer in a warehouse, sweeping up a bakery, breaking bottles in a glass factory. But that's not employment. Any monkey can do that.
And you think you're entitled to something better, eh?
I know it.
Indeed? How old were you when you left school?
17.
But you could have left at 16, so why did you stay on for the extra year?
I was conned, wasn't I?
By whom?
Oh, by everybody. Qualifications. You know, get your qualifications or you'll end up nowhere. Huh, it's a laugh, isn't it?
And did you get any of these qualifications?
Aye, sure.
What were these qualifications?
2 hires, art and technical drawing.
Hires? What are they?
Rather like A-levels, my lord.
You passed in 2 of these?
Yeah.
What grades?
An A in art, B in technical drawing.
Oh. Yeah?
And in addition, you had 7 O-levels?
Yeah.
Well, these seem like very reasonable qualifications to me. Didn't they help in getting you a job?
Oh, I was taken on as a trainee draftsman at the Cofield shipyards. 4 months later, the yard was shut down.
And there was no prospect of you finding a similar position elsewhere?
No. Nothing but monkey work.
So for the last 6 years, what have you been doing for a living?
Who's living? I'm not living, I'm just taking up space.
Are there no interests in your life?
Oh, I drawing my brew money gives me the greatest of pleasure.
And what about the Strathclyde Rovers? That's an interest, isn't it?
No, that's not an interest, that's a habit. No, it's more than that, it's a disease. See, where I come from, if you don't pick up from your father, you pick up for your mates soon enough.
Well, surely the cure is simple. All you have to do is stop going to their matches.
I wish it was that easy. But I mean, it all feels different when you're on the way to a game. I mean, there you all are in the coach, singing the songs, wearing the colours. You know who you are. You know who you're with. You know you're going somewhere. The rest of the week is nothing.
You say you enjoy these outings?
Something to do.
What about the outing to Fulchester?
Aye, what about it?
Well, were you made welcome in the town?
Oh, aye, like a Black Death.
Oh, but that's normal, isn't it, when Strathclyde Rovers supporters travel to away matches, isn't it?
No, no, no. This wasn't normal. We were hounded. You couldn't even look in a shop window without being surrounded by coppers. Danny and me were searched 3 times on the way to the ground.
Did they find and confiscate anything in these searches?
My knife.
You were carrying a knife?
Yes, an ordinary pen knife. I still draw things. I like to keep my pencils sharp.
Anything else?
Aye, outside the ground, they wouldn't let us take a beer in.
They confiscated your beer?
Are you kidding? No, we stood there and drank it. We couldn't take the cans in, but we did take a beer in.
Were you at all worried about having to stand all through the rest of the game without further refreshment?
No, they were too busy watching us drinking this beer. They didn't twig Danny the bottle of whiskey down his trousers.
Right. Now, let us get straight to the incident that has brought us all here this afternoon. Tell us, please, in your own words, what happened.
Aye, well, Danny and me were up on the terrace and behind the Rovers' goal. Just watching the game, cheering on the boys, you know. I was here and Danny was by my left, and this bloke came in behind us.
Can you describe him?
Aye, he's a big fella, near as big as Danny, but oh, snide with it.
What was he wearing?
A kind of dark wind cheater. I didn't take much notice. Anyway, he started shoving in, so I told him to shove off.
And did he shove off?
No, he just stood there mumbling something.
What do you mean, mumbling something?
Well, as if he was talking to himself. I thought he was drunk, so I just turned back to the game. And I feels him shoving in again, so, you know, when I looks round, I sees him trying to put this knife in Danny's pocket.
Is that the knife?
Yeah, that's it. I thought maybe he'd done something, he was trying to ditch the evidence, no?
And what did you do?
Oh, I shoved his hand away. I told him he'd find some other mug.
What did he do?
And he just grinned, and he stamped on my toes.
That must have been very painful.
No. I had 2 toes crushed a couple of years ago. I've had to wear steel toe-cap shoes ever since.
And what was Danny doing all this time?
Well, I hadn't noticed. I mean, he was just, shouting the team on, waving his arms about. And his elbow kind of brushed against the guy's shoulder.
Against Sergeant Doyle's shoulder?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I didn't know he was a copper then, did I? As far as I know, it's just some bum trying it on.
How did he react to Danny's elbow?
I thumped Danny in the ribs, told him to watch it. Danny turned round. It was the first time he'd seen the bloke. So he pushed him away. And he turned back to the game. And that was when the guy jumped him.
Now, you're sure of that? Sergeant Doyle jumped on Danny from behind?
Yeah. He nosed him.
Nosed him?
It's a particularly vicious form of assault, my lord. Perhaps my client could demonstrate it on the usher.
Oh, sure.
Well, yes, well now, McTeague, you will simply explain to us, using the usher as a model, you will not touch him.
Right. Well, what you do is you jump on a man's back, and you get one arm round there, put your other arm over the top, and you hook your fingers up the nose, and then you pull.
Quite appalling.
Oh, well, if it's done right, the other guys get no chance.
Thank you, usher. Did Sergeant Doyle do it right?
No, Danny was a bit too big for him to get on the grip. I knew he'd soon find he'd backed the loser. Danny was round them like a flash. And at the same time, United scored, and that's when the Rammy started.
Rammy?
Rammy's a riot, a disturbance.
I wish your client would speak English.
Why should he, my lord? He's a Scot.
Well, I'm not going to get dragged into a debate on devolution here. Just get on with your case, Mr. McGilly.
Thank you, my lord. Now, Mr. McTeague, what did you do when the fight started?
That's why I went with him with a bottle.
You hit him with a bottle?
Yeah. He was getting into my mate. There's a bottle there. I hit him with it.
Did you do this deliberately or not?
No, look, that's not the way it works. You don't think about it. You just do it. I mean, it's the first rule in Rammies. You do unto others before they do unto you.
I see. And what happened to the sergeant?
Oh, well, he'd like a brick. Started swinging at me with this knife. So I grabbed his hand and wrestled for it.
You got the knife away from him?
Yeah. And then he grabbed me and we all fell down in a heap. I mean, the crowd, they were just going bananas, They were trampling all over us like a herd of buffalo. And when eventually a space did clear, me and Danny managed to get to your feet. The sergeant stayed on the deck. I could see we were in a kind of bad spot, so I said to Danny to run for it. But the sergeant was curled on her legs. We couldn't move. Then the Archangel Gabriel over there descended with his flaming truncheon. Broke my bloody wrist and he battered Danny senseless.
And shortly after that, Inspector Fielding arrived with his men and you were taken into custody.
Yeah. Now, if you want to talk about animals, let's talk about these guys. I mean, they could see the state my wrist was in. But they slapped a pair of handcuffs on me all the same. I mean, it wasn't until I got into the ambulance that the doctor made them take them off. I mean, they just kicked Danny a bit like a rugby ball. And they call us animals.
On the Wednesday, you were taken to Fulchester Central and charged with the murder of Sergeant Doyle.
Yeah. But that was the first time anyone had told us it was a copper that had been done.
Why did you refuse to make a statement?
They didn't want a statement. I mean, they wanted a confession. I mean, we didn't give them it. And they'd done us over again.
Which resulted in you returning to hospital for more medical treatment.
Yeah. And a good thing it was, too. I mean, I reckon if we'd spent the night in those cells, it'd have been our last.
Now, John, one last question, and a crucial one. Did you drive that bottle into Sergeant Doyle's body?
No, of course not. I dropped the bottle as soon as I went for the knife. See, that's a big mistake these people make. They don't know anything about bottle fighting. I mean, you don't use a bottle to kill. You use it to mark. You don't use it on the body, you use it on the face to scar.
Do you consider yourself to be an intelligent man?
I'm no mug.
No, of course you aren't, no. In fact, you're a man of some education, the Scottish equivalent of an A-level in art, I believe.
So what?
Well, perhaps that might account for the highly imaginative and colourful picture you've painted of these events leading up to the death of Sergeant Doyle.
That's the way it was.
Do you seriously expect the jury to believe your version?
No. I don't expect this court to believe anything it doesn't want to believe. The way I see it is you're down one copper. Me and Danny, we're just here to balance up the books. It's as easy as that.
You don't seem to have much faith in British justice.
Oh, it's British justice, is it? You know, it's funny, you people only seem to use that word for two reasons. You either want to share in our credit or you want to spread blame.
Well, perhaps you feel that you two shouldn't even be in the dock.
Oh, look, well, maybe we should, but there's a few more that ought to be up here along with us.
Oh, I see. We're back on the allegations of police brutality, are we?
So what is this? Scotch mist?
A police constable finds you with a knife in your hand, standing over an injured colleague, kicking him viciously. What do you think you ought to do? Tap you on the shoulder and say, "Excuse me, shall we sit down and discuss this like gentlemen?"
Hey, look, we weren't kicking him. He had us held. We were trying to get away.
Oh, yes, trying to free yourself. Would you describe that, please?
What do you mean?
Well, describe the actions you were taking, what your feet were doing, that kind of thing.
Well, like he had me trapped. My left leg was cut in between his knees. I was trying to prise apart his legs with my other foot.
Using, if I might use a phrase of which my learned friend seems very fond, the minimum force necessary.
Come again?
Did it take a lot of strength to prise his legs apart?
Well, he had me held like a vice.
So you had to use considerable force?
Yeah, well, I mean, a fair amount, yeah.
Yes, with steel toe caps. That, to me, sounds like a description of a very vicious kicking. Wouldn't you say so?
Oh, look, I've told you about the toe caps, they're for protection.
Yes, nevertheless, they made a very nasty weapon, didn't they? Now, let's pass on to the next item in your armoury, this knife.
Look, it's not my knife. That is the one that the copper was trying to plant on Danny.
But you were in the habit of carrying a knife, weren't you?
Yes, an ordinary pen knife for sharpening pencils.
This knife that, according to you, was confiscated by the police on the way to the ground.
Yeah, right.
Yes, and yet, despite the most meticulous of searches by the police of all the items confiscated that day from the Strathclyde Rovers supporters, this small, ordinary penknife of yours has failed to turn up. Indeed, not one single policeman remembers, has any recollection at all, of searching you or your friend.
Well, it doesn't suit them, does it? I mean, if they've already picked my knife up outside the ground, then they've got a hard job explaining where that one came from, haven't they?
Yes, but the opposite is also true, isn't it? I mean, you don't wish to be associated with that knife, so you invent this confiscation story in an attempt to refute the evidence.
Oh, well, I wasn't very clever, was I? Look, I described my knife down to the maker's name and a mark out with a large blade. Easy enough for them to find it, and then lose it.
Yes, perhaps in this instance you were too clever.
Oh, aye, see me, I'm a bloody genius.
Oh, I'm in complete agreement with your choice of adjective. I have no further questions, my lad.
The cases in Fulchester are fictitious. You can join us again tomorrow when the Queen against McTeague and Morrison will be concluded in the Crown Court. The trial of John McTeague and Daniel Morrison for the murder of Sergeant Doyle on the terracing at Fulchester United's football ground enters its final day. In examination by his counsel, Douglas McGilly, QC, McTeague has claimed that the deceased man had deliberately provoked the fight and that from the moment of their arrest, both he and Morrison had suffered considerable brutality at the hands of the police. The jury in this trial has been selected from members of the public, whose names appeared on the electoral register and who are eligible for jury service.
What is your religion?
Protestant.
I beg your pardon?
I'm a Protestant. You know, opposite a Catholic.
My client is a Protestant, my lord.
Yes, thank you. Administer the oath.
Take the book in the right hand and read aloud the words on this card.
Something wrong?
Well, I'm not very good at the reading.
Administer the oath verbally, please.
Repeat after me. I swear by Almighty God
I swear by Almighty God
that the evidence I shall give
that the evidence I shall give
shall be the truth,
shall be the truth,
the
the
whole
whole
truth,
truth, and nothing but the truth. I remembered that for the others.
Mr. McGilly.
Thank you, my lord. You are Daniel Haldane Morrison, and you live at 48 Rockingford Drive, East Kilbride, Renfrewshire, Scotland.
Oh, that's right.
And what is your occupation?
You mean before all this?
Yes.
I was a labourer on the roads, digging ditches and that.
How long had you been a labourer?
You mean officially?
Officially or unofficially?
Well, I'd been with the same firm since I left school. But before that, I could always get 2 or 3 days casual, like, you know.
You were digging ditches when you were supposed to be in school?
Oh, I couldn't be doing with the school. You know, a bit of a waste of time, you know. And I liked the digging, and I needed the money for the follow-on.
Follow-on? What is the follow-on?
Oh, come on, the follow-on. You know, look into a song. Follow, follow, we will follow rovers everywhere, anywhere.
Quiet.
We will follow on.
So you needed the money to follow your football team to away matches?
God, aye, cost a bomb day. Yeah, see, if this was a real welfare state, you'd be able to follow your team in the national health.
A splendid thought, I'm sure. But let's talk about the match on October 2nd. It was arranged at short notice, I understand.
We were due to play the Albion in the Premier League, but that game was called off because the national squad called up Higgins, McGlone and Santos.
Just a minute. Higgins, McGlone and Santos?
3 of the Rovers. The world's greatest. You should see Higgins, our goalie. We call him the octopus, you know, because he's got arms everywhere. And McGlone and Santos...
Yes, well, I think we get the picture.
So with the Albion game called off, you heard that a friendly had been arranged with Fulchester.
It was a bonus.
How do you mean a bonus?
The game with the Albion's always a dead loss. No opposition on the field or off it.
And you thought Fulchester United would give your team a closer run, eh?
Well, let's just say they're a better class of rubbish than the Albion. They couldn't live with us, though. We are the champions.
Isn't that claim a little extravagant? After all, I mean, you were 2-0 down when the match was abandoned.
That first goal was a mile offside. Everyone at our end of the park saw it.
Were you outraged at the referee's decision?
Oh, sure.
And was there any demonstration of violent outrage around you at that time?
No, a bit of swearing and shouting. Couldn't expect anything else with an English referee. And we knew that the Rovers would soon be getting into these people.
Getting into these people? What does that mean?
It's a cry. You know, like a battle cry. Come on, the Rovers, get into these people.
And the second United goal, was it also offside?
Probably. I didn't see it.
Why didn't you see it?
This fella hanging around my neck trying to kill me, didn't I?
Now, tell us in your own words of the events leading up to that moment.
I don't know much about it. I was watching the game.
Well, tell us what you do know.
This fella was trying to shove in between me and John. I wasn't paying much attention. You see, Pendle had just got possession in midfield and was trying to get Walters away on the left.
Yes, but were you at all aware of what was happening behind you?
Well, I could hear John telling somebody to go away. But I couldn't see who it was.
And did this person go away?
I don't know. I don't think so. Next thing I felt this big dunt in my ribs.
What?
Dunt is a severe blow, my lord. What did you do next?
Well, I turned round and there was this joker glaring at me, breathing heavy like. I just gave him a wee bit of a shove, told him to behave himself, turned back to the game and he jumped me.
Were you surprised?
No, I was half expecting it. You see, I'd marked his card. I knew where he was.
You knew he was a policeman?
No. Oh, no, I didn't know he was a police. I knew he was a nutter.
A nutter?
Aye.
You mean a crazy man?
I had to be. Who else but a crazy man would walk into the middle of Strathclyde Rovers wearing a green and gold scarf?
Oh, is there some significance in those colours?
They're the enemy. The scum, Fenian traitors.
Green and gold are the colours of a rival football team in the Strathclyde area, my lord. There's a long history of friction between them.
Oh, really, Mr. McGilly?
Green and gold is to a Rovers supporter what a red rag is to a bull.
Well, there you are, you see, members of the jury. I was not aware of that.
I'm sure you weren't, my lord. But can we be sure that Sergeant Doyle was also unaware of it?
You were quite looking forward to this trip to Fulchester, weren't you?
Aye. I look forward to all Rovers away matches.
Oh, and why the away matches particularly?
Huh?
Well, don't you look forward to the Rovers' home matches as well?
Sure I do. I mean, well, they're the Doddle, aren't they?
A Doddle?
Doddle. Dead easy. On our home ground, we're invincible.
No opposition?
None.
On the field or off it?
Correct. Except when they Fenians come along. And they're the ones that cause all the trouble with their papist songs and their Fenian flags.
Yes, but the other Scottish teams and their supporters don't give you any trouble on your home ground.
Huh? No, on your Nelly. They wouldn't dare. We've got them surrounded. One toot and they're out.
But it's different at away matches.
What do you mean?
Well, at away matches, it's you that's surrounded and outnumbered, isn't it? If I might be permitted an attempt at your vernacular, one toot and it's you that's oot.
What? You're joking, mister. Listen, we can look after ourselves. We're the people.
Must take a lot of courage, though. Marching into a strange territory, waving your colours.
It's them that needs the courage. When they see us coming, they'd better step aside.
A lot of men didn't and a lot of men died.
Huh?
That's the other half of that quotation, isn't it?
Oh, well. If you stand in front of a steamroller, you're going to get flattened, aren't you? I mean, that's asking for it.
Do you find people tend to do that at these away matches, stand in front of the steamroller?
They do. Well, it's their territory. They think they're king of the midden till we come along.
But you soon show them.
Aye.
Indeed, that's part of the fun and the excitement of these away matches, wouldn't you say?
Oh, well, listen. No, wait a minute. We don't come looking for trouble.
You don't?
No.
You come marching into a strange town, waving your colours, hurling abuse and insults and obscenities at the local people, and you say you're not looking for trouble?
But they're waving their colours and cursing and swearing at us. I mean, you can't just let them get away with it, can you?
Why not?
Why no? Why no? What do you mean, why no?
Well, is it worth starting a rammy just because somebody calls you a few names?
Me? Oh, I don't care what they call me. They can call me anything they like. It's when they start in the Rovers. Oh, no, I can't be doing with that.
And at this particular away match on October the 2nd, did the supporters start on the Rovers?
They did. Well, in the first half, they didn't have much to shout about. But in the second half, they really went for us. It was fantastic. 3 times in about a minute, our winger, Jockey Wallace, lost the ball to their left back. He was fouled every time, blatant it was. And they started shouting, easy, easy. Well, I mean, that's one of our cries. What are they shouting it for? And then their striker trips over Pendle and they started shouting, half, send him half. And then Pendle went to clear the ball and they went in the stand. They started shouting, rubbish, rubbish, what a load of rubbish. I mean, it's that bloody pitch of theirs. It's a right slag heap. We wouldn't play pitch and tossing it in Scotland, far less football.
You must have been pretty angry by this time.
Of course I was. Wasn't he right?
You must have felt pretty helpless and frustrated too. All those people shouting those dreadful things about your team and you couldn't get at them.
Sure, if I could have got near them.
Yes. All you could do was stand there and shout and wave your arms.
I was boiling.
Boiling. So it was only natural that you lashed out without thinking when you became aware of Sergeant Doyle behind you.
Who?
Sergeant Doyle. The man you killed on the terracing that
Well,
day.
Lord,
Oh,
if you please,
dear,
that's
oh,
surely
dear,
still a
oh,
question for
dear.
the jury.
You know better than that, Mr. Kelly. Rephrase it.
I apologise, my lord. Sergeant Doyle, the man who died at your feet on the terracing that day.
Lord, the implication is still there.
My lord, there is no implication. That is a clear and accurate statement of the facts. According to the testimony not only of Constable Bridges, but also of the 2 accused. That is precisely what happened. Sergeant Doyle died on the ground with the 2 accused standing over him. He died at their feet.
Why don't you just say he died at their hands and be done with it?
Well, that surely is still a matter for the jury to decide. As I was saying, it was only natural that you lashed out without thinking when Sergeant Doyle accidentally bumped into you.
Oh, he thumped me in the ribs, here. I just shoved him away.
Shoved him away? But if, as you say, he thumped you in the ribs, I suggest that was a very good reason for you to lash out, to hit him back.
Oh, no, I was watching the game. It's when he jumped on me. That's when I got tore into the Fenian bastard.
How did you identify him as a Fenian?
His scarf. His green and gold scarf.
Yes, but he jumped onto your back. I mean, you couldn't have seen the scarf at that moment.
Well, I must have seen it when I turned around to shove him away.
You turned around? You mean you turned your back on a Fenian scarf? Doesn't sound very likely, does it?
No. No, wait a minute. It was during the fight.
During the fight?
Ah, that's it. His jacket came open. That's when I saw it. That's when I knew he was a Fenian.
Oh, you realised it then? I say, and that I've no doubt it inspired you to greater efforts.
Well, he'd no right being there. There's no place for his kind in among us.
Just because he wore the hated colours?
He'd no right.
Can you tell us what that is?
Aye. It's one of them. One of their scarves. The curse of the Strathclyde Rovers. Take it away, I'm going to be sick.
Can we have Exhibit 5, please? Usher, would you hold them up, both up, side by side? Thank you. My lord, the scarf on the jury's left is the one Sergeant Doyle was wearing when he died. It has nothing whatsoever to do with any football team. It is the scarf of the Old Ignatians, a former pupils' association to which Sergeant Doyle belonged for many years.
Still a bloody Fenian scar.
Members of the jury, despite all the muddying of the waters by the defense, this is a simple, straightforward case. One man, a brilliant and dedicated young police officer, is viciously assaulted by two men. The two men in the dock. The young police officer is dead. Now, it has become standard practice in crimes of this nature for the accused to bring counter charges of violence and brutality against the police. Now, why do they do this? When a crime has been committed, whatever happens after it can have no effect on the actual commission of the crime. It cannot make that crime any less vicious or erase it from history. So why do they do it? The answer is to try and gain sympathy, to try and make you people, ordinary, honest, decent citizens, so appalled at the alleged tortures and beatings that they've been through, that you will begin to believe they've already paid for their crime. Or indeed, if the police can overreact in this way and behave with such total disregard for a person's rights, they might even prefabricate some of the evidence. Consider the allegation that Sergeant Doyle attempted to plant the knife on the accused Morrison and was in fact in possession of that knife for the major part of the fight, while McTeague attempted to wrest it from him. Dr. Dixon, the pathologist, has told us there were no fewer than 7 stab wounds on the body of Sergeant Doyle. Not one single such wound was received by either of his two assailants. McTeague claims that any such knife would have been discovered during the 3 body searches he tells us took place, and that, in fact, a small ordinary penknife was discovered and confiscated, while a bottle of whiskey was missed. You may not believe our police can be that inefficient. The defense has attempted to establish doubt on whether any of the multiple injuries received by Sergeant Doyle actually resulted in his death, that his death was the result of an accident. We've heard in evidence that several of those wounds were certainly fatal. And I believe that even if, as the defense maintains, that stab to the heart with a broken bottle was not inflicted by either of the two accused, or even if it had not occurred at all, those 2 men in the dock would still stand accused of murder. You've heard the accused Morrison describe how frustrated and angry he was when Sergeant Doyle appeared beside him. How much provocation would a man in that state need to set him off? A so-called Fenian scarf, a red rag to a bull, to quote my learned friend. You'd heard from Morrison's own lips the effect it had on him. And you may believe, as I do, that that scarf provoked an attack so vicious that it resulted in murder.
Members of the jury, whatever my learned friend says, this is not a simple, straightforward case. The waters are very muddy indeed, and it is not the fault of the defense. Indeed, I would go further and say that the waters are polluted, because that term implies interference by man, and you cannot issue that water to the public as palatable simply by saying it is so. Take the matter of police overreaction. 680 men on the ground when 120 is the norm. That is overreaction in my book. Body searches, there's no doubt they took place. I myself was shown the hall. Oh, there were knives, certainly. Mostly pen knives of the ordinary kind that anyone might carry without murderous intent. There were wrist watches. Oh yes, wristwatch is a very dangerous weapon, according to one police officer. Here you take it off and slip it over your fingers. Hey presto, instant knuckle duster. There was a pair of braces in that collection. Apparently, the metal adjusting clips make it into some kind of South American bolus weapon. It's a wonder they didn't take the trousers too. After all, I suppose it could be argued that the trousers could be used to strangle someone. Or would that have been construed as overreaction? From the moment the first Strathclyde Rovers supporter bus entered the city, the police overreacted. They were made to park 2 miles away, and they were herded in bunches like cattle through the back streets to the ground. It was not the Rovers supporters who were looking for trouble, it was the police. And lo and behold, half-time comes round, and there hasn't been any trouble. Now, do you find it impossible to believe that amongst the 680 men on duty that day, there were not some, a few, maybe even only one, who felt frustrated and on edge at having given up a free day for nothing, and that a quick nudge might get things going, and then everybody would know where they were at? After all, these were animals. Everybody said so. It was only the kind of thing you could expect from. So my clients were involved in a fight that was not of their own choosing. But once they were in, there was no turning back. They fought their way, the only way they know. It was not the Marquis of Queensberry, but then the Marquis of Queensberry wasn't brought up jobless and hopeless in a poverty-stricken Scotland. My clients fought and a man died, but remember the medical evidence. The fatal wound was the one caused by the broken bottle. And my clients have sworn on oath that they did not inflict that wound, that the sergeant fell on the bottle during the struggle. There's no way that they can prove it. But then the prosecution has not proven that one of the 2 men in the dock stuck that bottle into Sergeant Doyle's heart. Until that has been proved, there is no way that you can convict my clients of murder.
Thank you, Mr. McGilly. Members of the jury, it is my duty to instruct you as to the law, but you are the sole judges of the facts. Now, it is a fact that Sergeant Doyle died of injuries he received whilst on duty at a football match on the 2nd of October last. You must put from your minds any views you may hold about football crowds. Watching football is a lawful pastime practiced by hundreds of thousands of law-abiding citizens. You must also put from your minds the alleged conduct of police officers after the accused were charged. That is not a matter for you today. What you have to decide is whether or not the prosecution have shown to your entire satisfaction that the accused are guilty of the grave offence with which they are charged. Now, you have heard the evidence of Dr. Dixon in the witness box describing the injuries received by the dead man. And you have heard learned counsel for the defence very properly cross-examine him as to which was the fatal wound. Now, you may think that it was the broken, jagged glass bottle that caused the death of Sergeant Doyle. That the officer fell upon the broken bottle which was already on the ground. You must decide. Now, the prosecution say that the accused, acting together, caused these injuries with boot, knife, and bottle. But it is for you to decide if they were acting together, or if it was the act of one man, which one? consider their cases separately. And here remember that the defence do not suggest that they were not acting together. Now, the defence says that Sergeant Doyle so provoked the accused men as to reduce the charge to manslaughter. And here you must remember that murder is the killing of a person with intent to kill him or with intent to do him grievous bodily harm. Will you now please retire? Elect a foreman to speak for you on your return and consider your verdict.
All stand. Members of the jury, will your foreman please stand? Just answer this question, yes or no. Have you reached verdicts upon which you are all agreed?
Yes.
Do you find the defendant, John McTeague, guilty or not guilty to the charge of murder?
Not guilty of murder, guilty of manslaughter.
Is that the verdict of you all?
It is.
Do you find the defendant, Daniel Haldane Morrison, guilty or not guilty to the charge of murder?
Not guilty of murder, guilty of manslaughter.
Is that the verdict of you all?
It is. Sit.
John McTeague, Daniel Morrison, you have been extremely fortunate to have been acquitted of the charge of murder. However, you have been found guilty of the manslaughter of this police officer, and we must ensure that you do not enjoy yourself again at a football match for some time. Each of you will go to prison for 10 years. Take them down.
Court will rise.
The cases in Fulchester are fictitious. When our cameras return to bring you another leading case from the Crown Court.